Interesting video to show you. You might find this incredibly titillating. I have video of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump from recent debates, Democratic and Republican respectively, talking about Middle East policy. And it appears as though they have almost the exact same views. Noah Ferguson, our segment producer, researched this for us and put all the clips together, and we're going to go through them. A viewer wrote to me saying, you know, I watched the last Republican debate, I watched the last Democratic debate, and it sounded like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders said essentially the same thing about Middle East dictators. Let's take a look first at Bernie Sanders. Here is Bernie Sanders talking in the Saturday debate that you may not even have heard about, never mind watched, about Middle East dictators. Take a look.
Next, because I think the
Let me
crucial...
just comment. I have a difference of opinion with Secretary Clinton on this. Our differences are fairly deep on this issue. We disagreed on the war in Iraq. We both listened to the information from Bush and Cheney. I voted against the war. But I think, and I say this with due respect, that I worry too much that Secretary Clinton is too much into regime change and a little bit too aggressive without knowing what the unintended consequences might be. Yes, we could get rid of Saddam Hussein, but that destabilized the entire region. Yes, we could get rid of Gaddafi, a terrible dictator, but that created a vacuum for ISIS. Yes, we could get rid of Assad tomorrow, but that would create another political vacuum that would benefit ISIS. So I think, yeah, regime change is easy. Getting rid of dictators is easy. But before you do that, you got to think about what happens the day after. And in my view, what we need to do is put together broad coalitions to understand that we're not going to have a political vacuum filled by terrorists, that in fact we are going to move steadily and maybe slowly toward...
So, Bernie, against Iraq, regime change without planning for the consequences is a bad idea. The region was destabilized by getting rid of dictators. We created a vacuum which led to extremist groups, and we should be using coalitions, not going after this alone. We will now go to Republican candidate Donald Trump. Let's see what he had to say about dictators in the Middle East.
And to Russia. We're going to talk about Assad in a moment. Mr. Trump, are Americans safer with dictators running the world in the Middle East?
In my opinion...
Go ahead, Mr. Trump.
In my opinion, we've spent $4 trillion trying to topple various people that, frankly, if they were there and if we could have spent that $4 trillion in the United States to fix our roads, our bridges, and all of the other problems, our airports, and all of the other problems we have, we would have been a lot better off. I can tell you that right now. We have done a tremendous disservice, not only to the Middle East, we've done a tremendous disservice to humanity. The people that have been killed, the people that have been wiped away, and for what? It's not like we had victory. It's a mess. The Middle East is totally destabilized.
Destabilized. Lewis, a lot of similarities there. And my point is not that Bernie's position is a right-wing position. My point is that Donald Trump could say almost anything at this point, and he has a cult of personality where right-wingers who would never support this stuff support it. Trump is saying instead of defense spending to oust these dictators, let's not destabilize the region. Let's invest that money in infrastructure. That is stimulus. That's what Obama did. He's talking about infrastructure stimulus. This is Trump, the leading Republican candidate, and his supporters don't care. They'll support his liberal position on that.
And it's common sense, and we agree with Trump.
Obviously, and
yeah,
Bernie.
Yeah, and Bernie. But I guess getting into the political reasons for these wars and for toppling regimes is another topic. It is unnecessary, and okay, I mean, they both have a common sense take on the issue.
And it's just fascinating because Bernie Sanders is widely considered, by some, I mean, he's widely considered by those who have a sensitivity to this to be this far left guy. And then you have Donald Trump, who is considered to be this xenophobic, just kind of clueless right-wing guy. But is he really right-wing? Because he was a Democrat, but he loves the Republican Party. Anyway, on a fundamental issue of our time right now, which is thinking about the involvement of the United States in the Middle East, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, the supposed far-left candidate, and this businessman outsider who knows nothing but is leading, have come together and have essentially the same point of view on Middle East dictators. Very, very interesting. And we're going to stay on top of this one. And I'm curious to hear thoughts about this from the audience. Remember that I am on Twitter at David Pakman Show and at DPakman. Lewis is on Twitter at Lewis Motamedi. We'll be back after this.